It's July 25th today, and stopped out at one of my favorite small purple frilly orchid areas. I was a little concerned when I first came out because I walked down the lane where they tend to grow and didn't see any. Finally saw one, got down a little further than what I normally go, and then started to see a few more. One of the things that I've noticed about this particular area is that this used to be a roadway that I'm on here, and they used to mow the sides of the roadway, and the grass was a lot taller, and it seems now that grass is a lot higher, and two things have happened. One, I don't see quite as many of the orchids anymore, but secondly, the ones that are here tend to be pretty tall. This particular one has to be, at least 24 inches tall. I saw one down the way here that's probably another 4 or 5 inches taller than that. There are still a few small ones here. Many times I'll find these and they'll be 10 inches high, and that's all there is. So there's a great variation in height, and apparently the environment that they're living in is part of the reason why there is that big variation. They'll adapt to what they have to in order to survive. Purple frillies are a high ground orchid, although they grow very near water. This particular place that I'm at today is a series of shallow swamps with a road that was actually built up between them. I have seen them growing right along the edges of streams. I've seen them right along the edges of lakes, to the point where they're actually hanging out over the water, but they aren't with their feet in the water. And so consequently they need that dry ground, but they also like whatever the chemistry is next to where that water is. I've seen them over a large part of the state. They're fairly common. This apparently is a very good year for it. I've talked to people that have seen a lot more of them than they normally do. In this particular case, I was actually here 2 years ago, was the last time I was here. And within 100 feet of walking, I probably saw 150 to 200 plants. So far today, I've walked pretty close to a third of a mile, and I've seen maybe 10. So this particular place isn't doing as well as it used to, but other places apparently are doing really well this year. So for whatever reason, this one's down, but in general they're up. Very beautiful plant, small purple frilly. Now this is the tallest one that I found today. Comes right up to my belt buckle. Very seldom do I see them this tall, so this is kind of different for me. But very beautiful flower, just fantastic. Prime example of what small purple frilly can be. Well, on my way back, I have found several more purples. I've had to look deeper into the grass than I have before, and the small ones, the little ones that are 10 inches high, 8 inches high, don't seem to be doing very well at all. They bloom, but the flowers don't look very healthy. So I think what we have here is a habitat that's changing, that's probably gonna outgrow what these purple frillies are going to be able to handle. So I'm going to have to find some new spots. I do have some others, but this was always my favorite. One of the things that I used to find here on occasion were white purple frillies, which doesn't happen very often, but nothing today. So it was kind of a typical day hunting. I had some success and didn't find some other things that I was looking for, but that's what it's all about as far as going out in the woods and trying to find what you're looking for. So Today is July 26th. I'm on a hike here looking for some rattlesnake plantain. I'd seen the leaves earlier in the spring and some seed pods from last year, so checking them out today. The ones that I've seen so far are what are called the desiccated or checkered rattlesnake plantain. I've seen a number of them. There are, well, I don't know, I suppose I've seen a dozen or a little better than a dozen. And they seem to be just past prime. I know on my calendar I have them down for July 23rd as to when I've photographed them before, but it looks as if the 26th today is just a little late for them. So if I had had an opportunity to get out a few days earlier, I would have, and next year I'll for sure have to come out somewhere between the 20th and the 23rd to hopefully get them when they're prime. We could also yet today find some lesser rattlesnake plantain. It is along the same area that I'm looking at. Haven't seen any today. They grow virtually side by side. I've taken photos of them within 20 feet of each other, the checkered versus the lesser. So could have one pop up just about any time. They like high ground, but I've almost always found them alongside of a hillside on a lake. This is a gradual slope going down to a lake here to my left. It's rocky, it's very shallow soil, and this seems to be where they grow, kind of in amongst the moss and the rocks in this particular area. We've got some white pine around. Here's a red pine here, a few little balsams and spruce. So it's a mixed conifer cover that they are growing in here, and they seem to like. Well, this is interesting. I found another tessellated here, a little bit further down the trail. And while the ones I've seen up to this point have actually bloomed and the blooms are starting to turn brown, this one is starting to bloom from the bottom, as they typically do, and the top ones haven't even opened up yet. So this one is, for whatever reason, on a little bit different time cycle than the ones I've seen earlier. The one thing I will notice that's different with this one is that the leaves on this one are a little bigger. It might be a little older, more mature plant, and that could be a possibility as to why it is blooming a little bit later. Real interesting. I'll get some close-ups of both of these and hope to include those on the video. Well, I did get lucky and find some lesser rattlesnake orchids, very similar to the tessellated. And these seem to be in prime blooming position right now. So in my mind, probably normally they're going to bloom just a little bit behind the tessellated. So again, very similar. The leaf structure, basal leaves close to the ground, the tall spire coming out, and the flowers, fluted flowers coming out like this. Very similar to the tessellated, almost exactly the same. The biggest difference between the two that you can see by naked eye is that the pattern on the leaves are different. With the tessellated orchids, there's a real fine line pattern, whereas on the lesser, it's more of a blocky pattern. And aside from that, they're basically the same thing. So they like the same type of territory. They are, again, found usually in proximity to each other. This, I'm actually about half a mile from where I did the other filming, but I did find one other small example of a lesser in between here. So anywhere along this area would be a good place to look for them. Again, we have a hillside next to a lake. It seems to be a rocky hillside, and for some reason it also seems like the hillsides that I found them on have been on the north facing hillside. So whether that's true all the time or not, I couldn't say, but primarily the ones that I've seen have been there. I did find one in the spring, early in the spring, leaves and seed pod in a cedar bog. Actually in a place where I was looking for not lady slippers, fairy slippers, calypsos. And I did see one in there, but that's the only time I've ever seen a plant, and that happened to be a lesser, was in that bog. And I've never seen one in one since. So that's primarily it's been on these hillsides like this. I did find one surprise today. I did find some seed pods and just past prime striped coral roots. I haven't seen those for a couple of years around here, and was happy to find some examples of them. I've got them marked with my GPS. I'll be back here. I would guess that I'm about a week to a week and a half late as far as finding those in prime bloom. So next summer I'll have to make a trip back here and look for those, probably right after the 4th of July, maybe the week after the 4th, come in here and find them. So now that we're in the last part of July, the prime time for a lot of orchids is done. If I go out on a day similar to this, I'm not going to have the 7, 8, 9, 10 orchid day like I've seen in the past. A lot of the bog orchids are still blooming, but they're right at the end of their blooming cycle. We have these that are normally a middle to late July bloomer that here at the 26th, they're past prime already. So there's only a couple more that I would expect to see yet this summer that I haven't put on the series yet. One would be a club spur orchid, which is a bog orchid. Normally I've seen them earlier when they haven't bloomed. They're not too hard to find. They are fairly rare. Once they bloom, they're a little bit easier to find, but haven't seen any of those yet. And there are a couple of ladies' tresses that come out in July and even in August. So hopefully we'll find at least one of the ladies' tresses a little bit later this summer. But again, that's what orchid hunting is about. You get out and look around and see what you can find. So in the meantime, I hope you get out and find some of your own. Thanks for watching. Enjoy.